Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So I tried filming this like 5 times already, so let's just get into it. We'll see how well this one goes. So yes, before we start this video, I did cut my hair. I thought a good healthy change would be good. I've been taking really good care of my hair. Not that this matters to the video, but yeah, because I know some people are going to be like, oh, you had your hair pinned up the other night, now it's short. Yes, I cut it. Just wanted a good healthy change, so going back to school and starting on a new life course. So yes, in yesterday's video I talked about something I haven't really talked about before, and it's because I have thought about this. I have for a while there. Once I pushed everything down and stuff, I kind of avoided thinking about it because I thought that it was childish and stupid. This, again, not how I'm thinking now, just how my mindset was back then and throughout some of the earlier years after. And again, when I started processing everything, I had to reflect back on everything and kind of go through those feelings and those questions. So you're probably wondering, what the hell are you talking about, Jess? And this was the question. Do you think they would have followed through on their threats of killing me? And without a doubt, yes. I honestly believe if I didn't start taking a stand, if I didn't start making, I guess, ruckus or like noise or anything, I honestly think they would have killed me. And that's not to be dramatic or, sound crazy or looking for attention. That is just fact. It is known that a lot of percentages of domestic violence end in death. Now this percentage is from like people that don't get out of, like, stay in it. And I'm not saying all, I'm just saying some, a good portion of it. Again, not all stories end this way. But there are a lot of stories, I guess you would call them, or that you hear in the news that, domestic violence and ended in, death, basically. That the abuser killed their partner. And then killed themselves, or they just killed their partner, or, there was suicide and stuff. And it's a very serious and real topic. This isn't bullshit. This isn't, again, looking for attention. This is just fact. And I honestly believe, yes, that would have been my situation. I mean, there was 6 against 1. And not to say that I wasn't a fighter or whatnot. It's just that I was just, again, so broken down and tired of fighting that I didn't know how much strength I had left. And if this was to happen, I honestly don't know if I would have had the strength to fight back. And again, this is just me looking back on it, guys. This is just me looking back on it and just kind of coming to terms with everything. This isn't, like, oh my god, me going off the deep end here. This is just, I want to bring awareness to it. And the fact is, whenever they threatened me, verbally, it used to sting. It used to, like, scare me. But after so long of hearing it, it was kind of just like, oh, fling it off. And when they physically used to threaten me, like holding me over the railing or holding a knife up to my throat or just beating the crap out of me, or, like throwing me down on the floor and kicking me and all of that. I was no longer afraid of dying. That is just what it was. This was what it was back then. I was no longer afraid of dying because I was threatened and abused so much. It was just kind of like the fear got taken away. This became normal. You know, the threats and the physical violence. And, you know, I also got threats. Well, not like death threats, but like threats from like adults in my life in the school, you know, saying like, oh, I have to keep my mouth shut, or like, you know, stop spreading lies and all that stuff. That it got to the point where it's just like, well, if my body is found, or they do kill me, like, it's not a surprise. And again, it wasn't quiet. Like, I did bring these things to my school's attention, but they didn't give a shit. That's the bottom line. They did not give a shit. And the thing is, again, this is just me looking back. This isn't my logical thinking now. It was my thinking back then. I was also thinking back then, like, oh, you know, if they do kill me, you know, that would be such a relief for my family. They wouldn't have to deal with, you know, a daughter, a sister, a cousin, a niece. That's so terrible, you know, that's a disappointment. That's just a letdown. Like, yeah, they would be sad and stuff, but it would be a relief to them. Again, not my thinking now. That was my thinking back then. You know, yes, it really saddens me to look back and think that that was my state of mind. And to me, it is scary to look back because that doesn't seem like the same person that I was. Like, I remember everything and I know that it was me that went through it, but looking back, it just doesn't seem like the same person. Like, wasn't the same person that I am now to then, and not the same person that I was then now. And having this conversation, literally sitting here having this conversation, and I know you kind of see the creepy doll up there. Sorry. Hold on, let me try to fix that so you guys aren't like, okay, there you go. Looking back and thinking about how real and how this is a serious conversation, guys. And domestic violence is no joke. And death in a domestic situation, you know, death anyways, like killing is bad, murder is terrible, but being in that situation, like, it always drives me crazy, like, even from family members, because I know it's hard to imagine, like, in that situation. It's easy to say, you know, if I was in that situation, I would get out. I was a hypocrite, guys. I used to say this before any of this happened. Like, I didn't say that, but I'd be like, yeah, you know, I was taught about it. Like, I would see the signs, like, I would get out. You know, I wouldn't allow this to happen. Easier said than done. And I know how that sounds. That sounds pathetic. Okay? But once you get in that state of mind of, like, and you get so beaten down that you're not surprised. And I know how scary this sounds, and I'm lucky to have gotten out of that, but you're not surprised that death is there. And this is a tough topic for you guys to probably listen to, and I apologize, but it does have to be out there and for people to be aware of. That I'm not saying all, but I'm saying some situations where domestic violence does end in death, they aren't surprised. They aren't shocked that this is coming, that this happened. And as they're dying, you know, yes, they're going to worry about the family and all that stuff, but again, they're not surprised. And I know how that sounds, and I'm not saying that's for all situations. But there comes a point in a domestic violence situation where you just don't feel death. You fear for your loved ones, you know, if they have children, or they feel scared for like their extended family, but they just don't feel fear for themselves. And again, I'm not saying all situations, but I did look into a lot of this, like, kind of to learn, and again, because I'm a logical thinker, so I have to look into like information and stuff and just try to process it that way. And this is what I found when I was doing my research. And again, I know how sick and twisted that seems, but I knew that there was, like, this is real, that domestic violence happens, but I just didn't know, like, if the thoughts and feelings that I was thinking were normal. And again, this helped me process a lot of things. And this is what was said to some of the survivors that said, we did not fear death. We feared it for our loved ones. And I can relate to that. I no longer felt fear for myself. That it just came to a point where I just accepted it. And yes, there was a point where I did fight back and stand up and just didn't take no for an answer and try to, like, better myself. And, excuse me, during that time where I stood up for myself, that I was fighting back and stuff, I was extremely numb. Like, it was like I became two people. Basically, one was just like, yeah, this strong, like, digging deep, like, we got this, we're gonna get out of this. And then there was another part of me that wouldn't be surprised if they attacked 10 times harder. And sometimes they did. But there was that other person that dug deep and got up and fought back by not physically fighting, but, like, fought for herself. And, you know, there was a time when I was talking in yesterday's video where I was shit scared, you know, of them stalking me and whatnot. And that was a real thing. Like, for a long time, I was scared. And even after, I was paranoid and I was scared that they would come after me. But I wasn't scared for myself. I was more scared for my loved ones. I was always trying to protect my loved ones from all of this. And, you know, sometimes it didn't work, you know. But I was deemed the troubled child from the outside. Again, this isn't me thinking, oh, I'm the troubled child. This is just what I was deemed by the school. But yeah, most of the time, like, I wasn't afraid for myself. Like, I accepted my fate. I was just scared for my loved ones. And yeah, there would be times where I was sick to my stomach. Like, I couldn't walk past my school or drive past my school without throwing up. Most of that, I think, was on reflex. And the other half of it was just, like, anxiety through the roof. And it's very complex because, Jessica, like, hello, ADD, speak before, like, a whole lot of things going on in my head. But like I was saying, let me clarify, that I'm saying multiple things, and I get that. I'm saying, well, on one hand, you were shit scared and paranoid and feeling like you're crazy, and then on the other hand, you weren't afraid. Like, I get it. It is a very complex range of emotions. And it is, again, very hard to explain, and it is very hard from somebody on the outside to look in and relate. And I get this. And it is very wishy-washy with the feelings. Because it's like you do go back and forth. Like, yes, like, I do feel paranoid and crazy, but, like, I don't at the same time would be surprised if they killed me, that type of thing, you know? Again, I know how crazy all of this seems, and, like, when you're talking about emotions and stuff, it is very complex. And do I believe that they would have killed me? Yes. Would I would have been surprised? No. And would other people been surprised? I would say yes. Like, definitely my family, 100%. The school, I think they would have acted surprised, but in all essence, they knew. I mean, they would threaten me bluntly in the hallways or in classrooms in front of teachers. Like, and there's no way that these teachers did not communicate with each other, did not hear any of this. Like, they were literally 2 feet away from a teacher when they threatened me like this, you know? I said stupid shit like that. Now, the other flip side of this is just like, well, Jess, you told us in videos that they said, oh, well, we have to get her to kill herself. Like, they have to try harder to get me to kill myself, basically. And no holds barred, like I told you guys I'd be honest with this. Yes, there was a few times where I wanted to take that way and just end it and kill myself. I'm not gonna lie. Very scary moments. Like, I was literally at my lowest point. I was defeated. I was emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, all of that. I know I repeated some of those, just broken and defeated, and just thought about it. And that is a very scary point to get into your life. It's not a point I would wish on anybody. It is a very scary situation to be in that, and I'm very thankful I never acted on that. Again, that's the depression and the anxiety and all of that taken over. And even though it doesn't control my life, sometimes there is that kind of quick thinking and quick reflex. And that's what always scared me, was I didn't want to react that fast on those situations. So it was always this constant battle. And obviously I did not, act on any of those, which is, I'm glad and I'm thankful for. And this is a real conversation, guys. This is real thoughts and real things that do go on in domestic violence situations. And I'm going to classify mine as a domestic violence because, yes, I did date one of them. I did date one of them. And even though we were over, it wasn't really over. That's what it comes down to. And it is scary to be locked in that situation and try to get out, and you don't know where to go. Because I was shut down by the school, the police. I was shut down by a lot of people. And a lot of things were twisting in my head. But what it comes down to is, I think, honestly, if I didn't get away when I did, which means basically graduate high school and try to move on with my life as best I can, I honestly believe that they would have killed me. I mean, they did come close to a few times of doing that. And again, being in that moment and looking back and reflecting, being like, holy shit, like, this doesn't seem like, it seems like 2 separate lives, like 2 parallel universes. Even though I know I lived it, I physically lived it, mentally lived it, it's hard to like look back and be like, holy shit, this was my life. And I'm honestly very thankful for that, you know. And yes, do I deal with a lot of issues from it? Yes, I deal with depression, anxiety, PTSD, Stockholm syndrome, OCD, and it's just like this long list of like other things. And yes, it is not fun, but I am also very thankful that I did get out of that situation when I did. And you know, it wasn't like this whole celebration and light, you know, fireworks went off and like all of that. No, it was kind of literally me just disappearing into the background and moving on with my life. Even though, you know, they never got punished or, you know, anything for what they did, they were able to move along with their lives. They all have kids. They're all in relationships. I think some of them are married. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't know. But what I'm saying is they were able to get away scot-free. And, you know, I was left to pick up the pieces. And, you know, and I'm still picking up the pieces. I'm still trying to do the best I can. But it does come down to the fact is that, yes, if they had the ability to, I do believe they would have taken my life. There's no question or doubt in my mind. And again, that's not to be dramatic. That's not to be like, oh, whatever. It's just fact. And it does have to be out there, not just to, oh, you know, hear my own voice. But the fact is that this happens. This train of thought does happen. These situations do happen. And no, they are not easy to get out of. You can't just, you know, snap your fingers and magically get out of a situation. There is a lot that goes into it. A lot of emotions, a lot of situations. It's just a whole lot of craziness. And stuff that you have to just deal with and do your best to move on and get out of that situation. And it's complicated and twisty and lots of angles, and it's a big bundle of mess, and then you have to deal with the mess that comes afterwards. But I know that's a question I got asked a lot. Once I started sharing my story was, do you think they would have? And that's my answer. Yes. 100% yes. I do believe they would have taken my life. But yeah, so that was a long-winded thing to explain and go through and a lot of confusion. I get that. But again, this situation is not just clean cut. There was a lot of shit that goes into domestic violence. And again, my situation, I'm not saying, ooh, like sticking out my situation. My situation was a little bit more complicated because there was a lot more people involved. It just wasn't one-on-one. There was 6 against 1. And then also the abuse from the school and stuff. So mine has lots of layers of abuse. And I'm not saying, you know, I had it worse than you. I would never say that, because every situation is different and complex and layered. And nobody should be comparing their situation to others. Like, I know I say all the time that there are situations out there that are way worse, which is true. That is fact. But again, I'm not comparing my situation to any other. I'm just saying that yes, there are way worse situations out there than mine, which is sad and breaks my heart, but that's just fact, sadly. And you know, it is time to honestly, I hate to be one of these people that say, oh, do more, but the whole fact is, yes, start believing survivors. Start believing when they are asking for help. There does need to be more done. And yes, there's a lot of situations out there, you know, that don't reach out for help, and that's adds to another complex layer and stuff. But those other things out in the world that, yes, do take priority and stuff, but we would like to get it to the level where, you know, the police aren't hauling out a dead body. And I know that's morbid, but it's fact. There's just a lot of stuff that goes into this that there's just a lot, guys. There's a lot that needs to be done and able to support survivors and resources that could be used, but unfortunately, you know, they say it that they're out there. Reality is they're not. It's not. And or they are, but it's just very hard to get a hold of, or for somebody to believe their story. I know mine sounds like completely far-fetched and out there, but in reality it did happen. Those are facts, that those stuff did happen, that I went through that stuff, that there is a lot of stuff that I went through. But yeah, like I said, guys, it's a lot of complexity to this, and you know, I will break it down or do my best for like my story, from my personal experiences, is to break it. I'll try to break it down from my point of view. So strap in, guys. It's like I said, there are some crazy ass stories out there that sadly actually happened. Anyways, guys, I am gonna leave it here for now. Another video that is super long. I apologize. Sorry. Anyways, guys, never give up. Always keep fighting. Remember, you're enough and you're very much loved. Until the next video, I love you guys.